Hello and a very warm welcome to The Real Talk. I am particularly excited about this conversation because something big is happening in Kigali. When it comes to security, especially African security, there's been lots of instances where discussions related to security on the continent will be discussed in some country far off. Now, let me tell you something. That story is changing. We're entering a new chapter with the International Security Conference on Africa. And in this particular edition, you're going to learn more about it. Let's meet our guest. Welcome to the show. Always a pleasure to have you. My name is Jackie Lumbasi. Please do join the conversation and share your thoughts using the hashtag #TheRealTalk. We are live on RTV and on our official YouTube channel. Our guest today is a wonderful gentleman, Lieutenant General Frank Kamanzi. He's a retired general. Did I say it right, Lieutenant General Kamanzi?
Yes.
So when I have to fix the title or the aspect of retirement, does it come after General or after Kamanzi? Where should I place it?
I guess you'd pick where, but it should come after General.
After General.
Yes.
So it should be Lieutenant General Retired Frank Kamanzi.
Yes.
Thank you. It is such an honor to sit down with you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
On a normal day, how does your normal day start and how does it go before we get to the meat of the conversation?
It depends on what day, whether it is a working day or a weekend.
Yeah, let's pick a working day.
Yes.
Yes, a working day for a retired general who today is the executive secretary of ISCA.
Precisely.
Yes.
I'll wake up in the morning because I have to be here by 9 in this office or on some other engagement.
Okay.
So I'll wake up in the morning, prepare myself for the working day, come to the office or go to some other engagement in line with my work, which normally when I come here, I begin by meeting my team, looking at what the day will look like in terms of our schedules, maybe look at what we're supposed to have accomplished between the previous day and the day that begins every morning. And the day normally ends around 5.
Okay.
But I'll be, of course, listening or ready to pick any call that is related to the work we do, especially now because as we just said, we are preparing for a conference, and the work involved does normally respect hours.
It does, huh?
Especially because we are expecting guests from 61 countries across the globe. So while some will be sleeping,
you will be
others will be awake, and
yes,
they'll
the
have
time
questions.
difference, yes.
And my team will need to consult me. So I should be available to respond.
Any time of the day or night.
So what that means is probably it's a 24-hour day.
Oh gosh, I don't like that at all.
Yes.
How,
of course, does not mean that we don't sleep.
You find time to sleep.
Yes, but
Yes.
we need to be available to deal with those issues.
You know, I was going to ask, for
Yes.
someone who has been in military for long, I assume that you are used to long hours, working abnormal hours, because the military life is not our kind of life, really, myself and my colleagues here. You have the early morning schedules, you've got the rigorous everything. From the time you're being recruited to when you're retiring, I can imagine there's this whole discipline with long hours and all. You're used to that, yeah?
Don't scare young people.
Oh, sorry. Yeah. I withdraw. I don't want to scare you, please.
It's not as harsh as that.
Oh, okay.
Because humans are made of material that is elastic.
Mm-hmm. We stretch.
Yes. You train. You
Yes.
get used to
Less sleep.
routine.
Routine. Yeah.
So I guess it's not as harsh as described. It works.
To us, the outsiders, it looks
Yes,
really harsh.
yes,
I'll not lie to you.
Yes.
For you who's just joined the conversation, welcome on board. Our guest is the Executive Secretary of the International Security Conference on Africa, Lieutenant General retired Fred Kamanzi. In the 1980s, you graduated. That was your first degree.
Yes.
It was a bachelor's in agriculture.
Yes.
Were you going to be a farmer? Were you going to be an engineer somewhere? And then how did you find yourself in the military?
Well, during that time, there was need for people like myself to join the military for different reasons. Major of which was, in the case of young Rwandans like myself, who were in refugee countries of refugees, such as Uganda, where I was born and grew up, there was need to join the military and make a contribution towards returning
Home.
I therefore made that decision along many of my compatriots my age to join the military and make a contribution in that endeavor. That's how, after graduating, specifically in 1987, I joined the military.
Wow.
Yes.
Yeah. And you served your country in many different capacities.
Yes.
We will not go into that. I want us to come to what is happening in the country at the moment. We have the International Security Conference on Africa. For someone who's watching and they're hearing of this for the first time, what is ISCA?
ISCA, as its name goes, is indeed the International Security Conference on Africa. And it was established as a forum that transcends borders, where stakeholders, including policymakers, researchers, security practitioners, civil society, and other stakeholders can meet and discuss issues that concern African security and development, because security and development, as it were,
They go hand in hand.
go hand in hand. So it was created as a forum or as a means or as a platform to create an environment where those stakeholders can meet and discuss these issues and be able to come up with solutions and ideas that can contribute towards security for Africa.
What is unique about this particular meeting? Because this is not the first time that these different stakeholders will be coming together to discuss our security. What makes this particular case unique?
I think two things. One is the timing. Of course, we have a lot of security challenges across the continent. By the way, this is not unique to the continent.
Yeah, happens in other continents as well.
In other places, but our concern is
we are thinking about ourselves.
Yes, we are thinking ourselves about ourselves. We have regional issues of security. You have threats across the board, threats against our critical infrastructure through cyber threats. We have terrorism. We have a changing geostrategic situation. For instance, we'll be discussing things like the future of African peacekeeping, for instance. Among other areas, we'll be discussing the cost of representing Africa in the media space, for example. So these are topical and timely issues that we think should be discussed, and providing a forum or a platform to discuss these, I think is important and timely at this point.
When you say you'll be discussing the future of peacekeeping mission,
yes,
if you, for the benefit of the person that will not be in that room,
yes,
if there's anything you can share regarding that, is it Africa's participation in peacekeeping missions, or is it peacekeeping missions operating on the continent? We have had a scenario where for over 25 years we had a UN peacekeeping mission in the DRC, for example. So when you say the future of peacekeeping missions, is it also analyzing the benefits of such or the cost that it has on the country where they operate? If you can just shed some light.
Of course, I don't want to discuss this topic here.
That's why I said just a little bit.
Because you have a panel that will be doing that. But we expect our experts
yes,
and distinguished panelists that will be handling this topic
yes,
to look at the African landscape, make a review and an analysis of what has obtained over the region. As you know, as a country, we've hosted peacekeepers here. Yes. We are a major peace troop contributing country to peacekeeping.
That's true.
We have peacekeeping missions in the region. You made reference to one of them. And it's by no means the only one.
Yeah.
There are reforms being discussed at the United Nations, including in peacekeeping. And there are also discussions on how creatively and in different approaches, whether bilateral or even improving multilateral peacekeeping. We expect that these will be discussed and our distinguished panelists should be able to handle that. And at the end of the day, we hope and believe that we'll have new, important and creative ideas that will improve the discussion and future ways of productively engaging or carrying out peacekeeping, for instance.
Yeah, from what I gather, we will have, even the panels will have different people, so people from different sectors.
Yes.
There are times when we think that security matters are a preserve for the military men in uniform. But you paint a picture where in this room we will have different stakeholders. And so for someone that is watching and they're wondering what could be their place, perhaps you should tell us what is the role of, for example, a citizen or someone in academics or a young man or woman that is out there in the security sphere. What is their place? What role can they play, as opposed to us assuming that this is left to the men in uniform, the men with guns?
Security, everyone has a role and a contribution towards security. Even in peacekeeping missions, just as an example, you have uniformed peacekeepers, you have the civilian component, as they call it, and the two make what peacekeeping is. But when you come to security itself, as you know it's the responsibility of everyone, especially the citizen. The citizen is both a recipient of a beneficiary of security. But also a very big contributor, because security can only be achieved when everyone, including the uniformed personnel and other specialized institutions. But security centers on the citizen and the individual, me and yourself.
Thank you for that. I just had to ask that question because sometimes people will stay aside and say, that's not my responsibility. So I appreciate that you say it's the responsibility of every one of us, every citizen.
Yes. Yeah. We are beneficiaries, but also contributors to security.
So you mentioned that the timing is of significance.
Yes.
When we go back to, I want to just get it clearly, the timing, but also at this particular time, are there any specific security issues on the continent that will be discussed? The specific security issues that made you decide, let Kigali host ISCA in May 2025? What are those burning issues?
We are not discussing specific issues in terms of location or defined problems.
Okay.
For instance, just going back to the future of peacekeeping in Africa, because this is a security conference focusing on Africa, we are not specific, we are not answering specific questions. Okay. But our panelists and others may choose to give examples. I'm saying may.
Yeah.
But
it's not written. It's not a written rule. They may.
Yes, they may choose to discuss a few issues. But as you know, African problems, like anywhere else, are not uniform, and maybe views by different countries are not exactly uniform. But we agree and that we can only come to solutions when we do things together.
Yeah.
That's why in this conference we will not be discussing specific or narrow questions, but we'll be looking at the African landscape.
Yeah.
Maybe give some examples depending on what our panelists and other discussants will choose, and contributors, because as a matter of fact, we'll have panels, we'll have fireside chats and others, but participants and others will also be able to contribute and give views.
Yes, they'll also ask questions.
Ask questions,
Yeah.
and the public will also be able to contribute through our different platforms, social media and others.
Yes.
And these are as important because the views and the contributions of the public is as important as people that will be in the room, as you say.
Okay, so we've established that there will be no specific issues that will be discussed, but perhaps I should ask why change the status quo? Why now? What is the inspiration behind having this initiative? Instead of us just meeting wherever we normally meet and discussing security in the different ways that we do, why is it important that from now on we change how we do things, we change how we discuss business, we change how we look at security issues on the continent?
First of all, discussing these issues here on the continent and here in Kigali is important in that our people will be able to follow what is happening. They'll take they'll be able to listen and see what is happening from the front
seat. They're seated at the table.
Yes.
Yes, they have a seat right there.
Yes.
Yes, in fact, it's their table.
That's very important.
Yes.
Because we want people to follow what is being discussed and benefit from the ideas. That's important to us.
Yeah.
When I say us, I mean Africa. These questions, these issues should be discussed here by ourselves with the contribution of other stakeholders. That's why in this meeting we'll have more than 61 countries being represented.
That's big.
By experts and policymakers, researchers, name it. So that is important to us. But discussing this in Africa with the participation of Africans, I think is important to us.
Yeah.
Because after all, we understand and appreciate our problems better. And once we properly define them and discuss solutions, it makes sense that we are going to effect and try to make the difference much better when we do it. We discuss, understand, and agree on the solutions together here. So that's why we think it's important that we have this conference here, participate and contribute, and also appreciate how best to move forward. Of course, this is not the first time, like you said, that we have these discussions and so on. But we think the environment and the timing are critical because we need to make a difference. We need to change the status quo. We need to, we think the approach and the environment, especially here, is going to contribute towards better ways of solving some of these issues.
Yeah.
Yes.
Thank you. We will be taking a break then. When we come back, I would love to know from your experience, what, especially the advancement in technology, what new security threats is Africa dealing with? Just a little bit about that, because I know the details will be discussed in the conference.
Yes.
Thank you so much for joining us. We are discussing the inaugural International Security Conference on Africa that will be hosted here in Kigali. As you heard from our guest, the Executive Secretary, Lieutenant General Retired Frank Kamanzi, more than 60 countries will be represented. We're going to have CDFs, we're going to have CDSs, we're going to have different players in the security space, but there will be other experts coming in from different parts of the continent, and for the first time discussing Africa's security matters in Africa. And there couldn't have been a better home for that than Kigali. Thank you for joining us. Share the YouTube links that we have others catching the conversation. And if you're online, you want to share your thoughts, do use the hashtag #TheRealTalk. We will be back. Welcome back. My name is Jackie. Our guest is Lieutenant General Retired Frank Kamanzi. He is the Executive Secretary of International Security Conference on Africa. It's a conference that will be happening on the 19th and 20th of May. It's an inaugural conference and something that I am looking at as momentous for the continent. You've had a lot that the ES has had to say. It's important that the citizens of Africa get to enjoy the fact that a security meeting, something that touches on their livelihoods, is happening on the continent. It's happening in Kigali, and it gives us an opportunity to take part. Sometimes when these things happen far off, you realize it will just be maybe a few people representing us, but here is a case where we are all invited. Some will be in the room, others will be online, and even you who's watching, you'll interact with it on the different ISCA social media platforms. When you go to X and go to the different social media platforms, look for ISCA and engage with the content that is there and share your thoughts on these matters as they go on. Yes, when these attendees are coming, they have arrived and they know for sure it's a conference, so there'll be a lot of sitting and listening to each other, talking to each other. But what else should they expect?
As you may have seen, if you had opportunity to see our program, we will also have an exhibition where different companies and organizations will showcase their technical and practical solutions to security problems. As such, we shall have an exhibition that our guests and others will be able to follow alongside the conference. But as important as listening to the different panelists and experts, there will be an opportunity to network.
Yeah.
Imagine an opportunity to meet colleagues from 60 other countries.
Yeah.
Over a period of 2 days. In fact, those who will have time, say an extra day, they will be able to enjoy the hospitality of our country. They will be able to see Kigali. And we will also be organizing for those who will be able to get the time to visit the Campaign Against Genocide Museum and also the Kigali Memorial. Our guests will be able to visit those places and other interesting places in Kigali, in addition to, most importantly, being able to network and make friends and acquaintances.
And learn from each other, you know.
Learn from each other,
learn
yes.
from each other.
Yes.
Because you might find there's one situation that has been dealt with differently in one country compared to another. So I imagine it will be such a good place to exchange knowledge and share experiences.
Precisely, and make friends.
And make friends, yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Do you think soldiers are that friendly? I'm just asking. Do you think they would come to make friends, or will they just have serious faces?
No, these will not be only soldiers. In fact, most of our participants are civilians.
Oh,
but I also make a case that soldiers are the most friendly people you can find.
Okay.
Yes.
You know, I had to ask that.
Yes.
So, you know, so as I said, when you tell someone, you know, I'm going to, I told a friend of mine
Yes.
that I'm going to have an interview with the executive secretary of ISCA. Then I told them a little bit about ISCA.
Yes.
And then they say, but you see, Jackie, your interviews are very different. Are you sure you're going to have that Lieutenant General ease up a bit? And I said, I will make sure he eases up. So you say, the perception is that you're not very easy people.
No, I repeat this. Soldiers are the most friendly and easy people that you can deal with.
I love that.
Take it from me. Yes.
That is good.
Yes.
Thank you for saying that. For those who, I said it already, but then I
Yes.
would love them to hear from the horse's mouth.
Yes.
We have the ones that are not in the room, but we want them to engage with the conference. We also want them to know that this conference is happening for the first time. It's the inaugural one, but it will always be there, but we also want their thoughts. So how do they engage? How do they participate? How do they contribute?
We have different platforms. We have a website. We have social media platforms. And our conversation throughout the conference will be live streamed on some of our platforms.
Good.
And as such, people that will not be in the room will be able to follow what is happening, and they'll be able to make a contribution through the interactive platforms, which is very, very important to us because their contribution, their observations are as important as what will be happening in the room, because at the end of the day, it's the contributions and the interactions that will make a whole of what we should be able to share with everyone, so that this forms a basis for the next preparations and the next conference. Because, as I said earlier, this is an annual conference. And what we do and what we achieve during this inaugural conference is going to inform better preparation and better results as we move forward.
Yeah.
Yes.
Will the conference always be, it's an annual conference, will it always be hosted in Kigali, or will it be hosted in other places as well?
We plan to mainly host it in Kigali, but we have options and plans of holding events elsewhere on the continent or even globally, depending on the circumstance and what we plan to achieve as we move along.
Yeah.
But for the most part, we'll be holding our annual conferences in Kigali. But we have plans to host different events on the continent and globally. And it's also part of our program to interact and cooperate with different institutions and other stakeholders, be they in the region, the continent, on the globe. So
Okay.
there is a possibility that we can have conferences or even the annual conference outside Kigali.
Okay.
Yes.
The ES has talked about the different social media platforms and the website, just in case you've picked interest and you want to go read more about the International Security Conference on Africa. The website is ISC Africa. Did I say that clearly? ISCA Africa. I don't want to confuse you. iscafrica.org. iscafrica.org. That is the website. If you're on social media and you want to find them on X, for example, you will go to @ISC_Africa. ISC_Africa. The hashtag is ISCA 2025. ISCA 2025. Once you go there, you will be able to see lots of different comments, issues. If you have questions, as long as you post the question and ensure you accompany that with a hashtag, somebody will respond to you. We are edging towards the end of the conversation. Yes, we see conferences all over, and there's so many times when people attend conference, sometimes for the sake of attending, it's a box that has to be ticked. How do we make sure that ISCA 2025 is impactful, but also what strategies are you putting in place to make sure there will be follow-up and the interest that we have in this inaugural conference is sustained?
First of all, we want at the end of the conference to have achieved a number of things. One, workable solutions or ideas that go towards tackling the different topics that are being discussed. We want this conference to generate interest or even some insights that should be followed up as we work towards the next conference. Because as it is, what we discuss oftentimes generates other questions. This may not be different. And as such, we'll discuss the different topics, come up with workable solutions and ideas, but we'll be able to generate some other insights and questions that we should be able to work on, both as a conference, but also our participants and other stakeholders should be able to learn and pick or benefit from the resolutions and the ideas that will be discussed and generated in the conference. Yes, so, and in addition, the networking and the interactions that this conference will provide an opportunity for should be able to provide the momentum and push us towards the next conference, and also be able to achieve some of the aims or the solutions that we are looking for over the period, because we don't have to wait for the next conference.
That's true.
Yes. So really what we expect is that the discussions and the interactions are going to generate solutions and ideas to questions that we have today, and also generate food for thought and ideas that are going to help us move forward in generating security solutions as it were. But again, the opportunity that the conference also offers, we talked about the exhibition and the different solutions and products that will be showcased by the different companies, will also be important because the technology and the tools that will be on display is also another important component towards solutions that we seek. Therefore, it's an opportunity for ideas, for solutions, for knowledge, and for being able to really interact and grow in our means and ways to look for solutions. Yes.
There's a popular Swahili saying, so I'll bring the saying, then ask my question. Ukiona kichwa cha mwenzako chawekwa maji, tayarisha chako. So I want to use that in security terms.
Yes.
And maybe try and break it down. So when the neighbor's house is on fire, you can't stand aside and watch and say, oh, let it just burn. If that is the neighbor's house that is on fire, the fire could easily jump over to yours. Your roof could also catch fire. And so it's important that a neighbor shows concern when their neighbor's house is on fire. The question that I want to ask is, what advice do you have? So for the larger African community that is watching, what advice do you have for them regarding their role in fostering peace and security across the continent? Why should it matter to a Rwandan that Kenya is secure, that Gabon is secure? Or from the south to the east, the north to the west?
You talked of the saying, but the world is a global village. It's not only Africa, in fact. Security globally, or lack thereof, is a concern to everyone. Because when you have a security problem anywhere, it almost affects security and environmental issues everywhere. Look at what has happened to the supply chains when we had even when we had COVID, which is a security problem. It's a disease, but it's a security issue.
I never looked at it that way.
That's what it is. Look at what has happened recently when you have the problems or the issue between the Russian Federation and Ukraine. Look at the effect that that has had globally. So it doesn't have to be a neighbor's issue in terms of distance, because the world is a global village. Probably when they talked of that, events are proving that
it's beyond the village, the neighbor in the village.
Yes.
It's now more of a global village than it was before.
So coming to your question, that's why security or lack thereof here, there, or anywhere is a concern of everyone. And everyone or every region has a contribution to make. So likewise, that's why what happens in a security conference like this should interest all of us, both by learning from what is happening from others that are partaking, but also making a contribution. So in that sense, security is everybody's concern, and everyone has a contribution to make.
You know, you responded to that very well. Yes, thank you. And so now, finally, invite the person that is watching, getting their bags ready for the trip to Kigali. Let them get it from you. That very powerful invitation to the land of 1,000 hills, as you speak to them directly.
I want to welcome all our guests to Kigali, to the inaugural conference of ISCA. Wish them a safe trip or travel to Kigali, and assure them that they'll enjoy the renowned hospitality of Rwanda and Kigali, and we look forward to welcoming them and wish them a pleasant and successful conference.
Thank you. There you have it. That is a personal invitation from the Executive Secretary of the International Security Conference on Africa that will be happening in Kigali, 19th and 20th May. If you're watching us from Africa or beyond, we want the world to know what will be happening over those 2 days. And so please go online and make as much noise as you can. The hashtag is ISCA2025. Go to iscafrica.org, that's the website. But also go to X, ISC_Africa, and get to share your thoughts. For me, what's exciting about the inaugural conference is the fact that for the first time, Africa has the attention. We're taking center stage, we're taking charge of security matters. Thank you so much for joining us on The Real Talk, and we're looking forward to seeing you next week. God bless you.